fresh helping of the Rob Dibble Show.
All right, we're back on the Rob Dibble Show. We're going to start over now.
Hey, man, you got to
We
step aside when
appreciate
the
Davis
PGA
Riley, yep.
Yeah, the PGA pros come through.
When the PGA Tours come through because they are so busy, we throw them in and try to get as much out of them as we can. I thought Davis Riley was fantastic.
I'm jealous of him.
Yep.
He's got everything I want.
Everything, including that nice Cavapoo dog. So
I don't want the Cavapoo.
Okay.
He can keep the Cavapoo.
He can have the
I want the
Cavapoo.
golf career.
Yeah. No, listen, he's a fine young man, and you like we said yesterday, you got to be addicted to this sport.
Yeah.
Because week to week, your putting could go. I mean, I was looking at everything, from like 125 yards in, he's in the top 10. Greens in regulation, he's in the top 10. Hitting it in the fairway, he's in the top 10.
You would think he'd be in the top 10.
Exactly. So
But
there's
he's not.
something. Well, and I was taught early on, listen, 42% of golf is putting. So you only have 14 drives. So, to spend like 5 hours on the driving range and like maybe a half hour on the putting green, you're killing yourself. You've got to spend probably the most time on the putting green because that's where you win championships.
Yeah.
And I think that you saw that this weekend. You've seen it on tour again and again where guys, even 6-foot putts to, par a hole or, birdie or eagle. I mean, it's just that's the – talk about game of inches mentality like baseball. That's definitely golf. And when you're your own company, you're your own corporation, man. You really gotta concentrate on the little things.
So true. And that's, everybody out here is an individual contractor, basically.
Yes.
And, I love the question you asked him about getting information from guys. And then, just in a baseball sense of, I'll tell you the signs. And then they'll tell you the exact opposite. Who do you trust out here? It's got to be a lonely kind of existence compared to most other professional athletes. But that kid, just like all of our young friends that we've seen in their 20s, we're hoping to talk to young Ben James, who I don't even think is 20 years old yet, a Connecticut native that kicked butt at University of Virginia. We talked to him last year at the Travelers as an amateur. But it's just those guys. It's a you did this. It's a lot like minor league baseball where you kind of put your life on hold for a dream. And you got to go all out for that dream because if you don't, it's not going to make it. And you're missing a lot of the other stuff, such as what your friends are going through in their early 20s. And you're just hearing about it, and you got this whole other world that you got to be an adult and a professional at, and it's lonely.
I honestly would have liked this better than the minor leagues because you can get lucky and get a big payday that can carry you for years.
True, and it's how you play.
Exactly. So, I mean, for us – I think I went from $600 a month to $800 a month to like $1,200 a month in my first 3 years in the minor leagues, and that's only 6 months of work. For these guys, I can chase my dream year round. But like we talked about, you and I were talking about Patrick Reed and these Monday qualifiers and stuff like that. That's a grind. That's a lot like minor league baseball where not a lot of people are watching you. There's not a lot of fanfare. But you got to get into these tournaments. You've got to qualify. And if you don't have a Q card or getting exemptions, it's a grind. I loved reading the stories about Patrick Reed. He and his wife were in her car, and they were running around the country chasing these Monday morning qualifiers to try to make tournaments and stuff like that. I respect the hell out of it. And here's the thing, too. The numbers of golfers, like the numbers of minor league baseball players, it's unbelievable. There's so many guys. And for them, it's like 150 guys get to play on Thursday. And that's daunting in a way because in order to qualify for the weekend, now you got to get in the top 50%, and that's not easy. You have to have a great first couple of days, just to get to Saturday and Sunday.
Well, I always think too, like everyone always still when we were at Chicago Sam's on Friday, people came up to ask you how fast you can throw. Like people would want to hit off of a pro. Whenever I saw a pro in basketball, like, oh, let me see this guy, and I'll show him. And, you always try to kind of compare yourself, outdo yourself. These dudes are playing a sport that everyone plays.
Right.
And everyone thinks, like I was telling you guys, when I see somebody not make a par on this course that I've made a par on, like, oh, what's wrong with this guy? I could do it. Why can't you do it? And just for those guys to somewhat be in that field, in that realm of where everyone's testing me all the time, no matter who I am. If I'm a pro golfer with a PGA card and I'm playing a municipal course, all eyes are on me and everybody wants to take me down. So I always find that fascinating too, that nobody thinks about with amateur golfers.
Well, and the toughest thing for me was the reality. Even in spring training, there was 180 guys going for 120 jobs, and the 60 that got cut, many were never going to play pro ball again.
Right.
Many careers ended in spring training. For these guys, they could continue to keep coming back. Some of them can go on and be like, listen, I'm just going to become a country club pro. That's a great way to make a living. I have a really good friend that was on the Nike tour, which was the Corn Ferry tour back in the day. And he basically, when we were golfing, he amazed me. The things he did with a golf club absolutely amazed me. And he was like, listen, but I don't have the guts to make that 10-foot putt for $1 million. And I realized that after a couple of years on tour, I kept missing these putts. I just didn't have it. And he became a caddy, and he was Michelle McGill's caddy for years.
Okay.
And this guy was still amazing. He was still a scratch golfer, but he knew that inside I could not beat certain guys on Sunday. So that's the difference. Some of these guys could either walk away. Some of these guys continue to play. You could become a country club golfer. You know, baseball, you're probably either going to be a coach or you're going to get into some other business altogether. So I just think that it's very similar. Pro hockey players remind me a lot of myself in the minor leagues. It's such a grind, but at least I wasn't getting the crap beat out of me. You know, I mean, physically it was taxing at times, but listen, I could recover. There's ways to recover in the off season, even when I wasn't going to winter ball. But for these guys, man, this is a year-round proposition.
Yeah.
One nagging injury can lead to another, and these guys, if they get a bad back, if they get a bad leg, and they can't perform, and now you're going on. Here's the thing about the tour. You're going to people you don't know, but you got to trust them, especially rehab or orthopedic surgeons, doctors, and stuff like that. I was around my guys and my trainers for years, you know, and I really felt like a bond with some of those guys after a while. They knew exactly, okay, you know, Dibbs' elbow, we got to take care of that. His shoulder is a big thing. We got to take care of that. So I would walk in there and they knew exactly what I needed.
Right.
You know, for these guys, you know, they have to explain what they need from somebody, and maybe they don't even get the kind of care that they need to get out there and compete.
I'm interested in that. I mean, we might find that out either today or tomorrow. Actually, our Hartford healthcare friends are going to be joining us tomorrow for a bone and joint takeover live from the Travelers Championship. I was telling you about the training trailers yesterday that they brought out. They got three semis for training right now. And I'm wondering, like, they have to have some kind of bio. They have to have some kind of rundown already on these guys if they've been to one of those facilities and that they can just punch right up. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But I think
is it like Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze? Are you carrying your medical records around with you? All right, I'm coming off of Tommy John surgery or rotator cuff.
I would not be surprised
what? I have
was
two
the case.
herniated discs.
I would not be surprised if that was the case.
Like what Davis Riley was just talking about. I'm lucky this tournament because my entire team is here.
Right.
Which led me to so your coach isn't always with you? No, because he's probably got other players. You're not just your swing coach, but you probably have like a personal trainer, nutritionist. And the toughest part for them is they've got to keep their calorie take up. You know, you're out there walking the course. You're not like us where we're taking a cart because we're so damn lazy.
Right.
They're out there walking. They're out there. They're burning tons of calories. They've got a huge balance. Where I didn't eat. I ate at 2:00 in the afternoon and 10:00 at night. I didn't eat in between.
Right.
And so for them, it's a constant struggle of nutrition and putting the right things in their bodies to make sure that they're on, like he said, getting that edge.
Everyone's here today. We saw John Rahm earlier do a press conference at 10 a.m. here at Travelers. Patrick Cantlay's in the press room right now speaking to the media. Everybody's kind of filing in. Still probably won't see Wyndham Clark, U.S. Open champion, until late tomorrow. Tomorrow, by the way, the Celebrity Pro-Am, a bunch of our UConn friends, a part of that, a bunch of the UConn coaches, amongst some other athletes that are going to be. I heard Tim Wakefield's going to be taking a part.
Oh, yeah, Tim Wakefield's in it again.
But it's going to be a lot of fun in the next few days. And you're right, once we get to the grind, Thursday through Sunday, the heat really gets turned up, all things golf, and the pressure gets on with everything that you've just been talking about, where, yes, a lot of people see some of these stars, like the two I just mentioned, John Rahm, Patrick Cantlay. They're set, man. They're fine. They just want to win tournaments to get more money and to get their status up and to win championships and jackets.
Get their FedEx points.
But guys like Davis Riley, guys like when we saw Lanto Griffin, that was the one I couldn't think of with Davis. When we saw Lanto Griffin, he's still dealing with the credit card debt. Like he had to win this tournament or he owns Discover a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So, like, things like that I find a beauty in. And I find a beauty in the struggle, man. Beauty in the struggle.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and the one thing I also respect, too, is, I didn't have, like, a day of the week where I had to do, like, a Pro-Am. I didn't have to go.
It's practice for them.
It isn't. It is and it isn't, though. They're professionals.
Yeah.
And, people say stupid stuff.
Get in their head.
Get in your head.
Yeah.
And, or they want tips or they want, major leaguers or NBA, they don't want any of that.
Right.
I don't want something rattling around in my head that somebody's critiqued me or said something that sets you off.
I held back a question for Davis Riley. I wanted to ask him his great points about his golf, what he thinks he could be like the best at amongst the tour, whether it's sand, whether it's off the tee or putting, and what's some of the things that you have to work at. But thinking,
I'm always cognizant of that. That guy, I don't know if he's insecure like I was, or oh man, he thinks my chipping's not great.
Right.
Somebody could ask you a question that So, and you and I both know a lot of these guys don't like doing these interviews.
No,
because they don't want to talk about themselves.
Not the PGA guys.
Guys.
It's anything. They don't want anything to creep in between their ears that can affect them Thursday through Sunday. Like, even on the flip side, like, hey man, I heard you're awesome on the tee. You're always in the middle of the fairway.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, damn right I am. Then goes to T1.
First sliced it.
Yeah.
Into the wood.
It's inevitable.
Well, and another thing too is for these guys, they're always working on something. That's that same thing with baseball players. Same thing with like tennis. I don't think hockey players are worried about their slap shot after 15 years of playing. But you're constantly changing stuff. And I'm constantly watching guys in the big leagues all the time changing their swings. McNeil has changed his swing in the last couple of years. When he was really good as a rookie, then he got into some bad habits and things. And what I mean by bad habits for them is, they can be, they're off balance. A lot of golf and baseball, tennis is balance. And some of these guys, if they have any little, like I said, injury that throws them off, now it gets in their head. That's an absolute nightmare to get that crap out of your head. After I got injured the first time, and I got injured in high school, I got injured in the minor leagues, but none of them, other than my knee, required surgery. When I had my first shoulder surgery, I had a totally different thought process.
Right.
I was like, because now you've got pitching coaches that are saying, well, there's flaws in your delivery that cause this, there's this, and at the same time, I had lost 30 pounds because the team wanted me lighter. So now you're questioning 15 different things, and I thought you asked a great question. What do you like push away from you as far as advice and things like that?
Yeah.
And again, the thing that I was always told, too many cooks spoil the soup. It's basically too many people in your head. You've got to be like, you've got to be able to get people out of your head, because when you're going good, nobody tells you anything. When you're going bad, there's 50 people that want to try to help you, and that's the toughest part of any athlete's downtime is, well, my dad said this, or my coach, my high school coach, or my college coach said, and some of those things can just sit there and you dwell on it way too long.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest difference with some of these golfers on tour, that like Ricky Fowler, I'm sure, was feeling that sort of pressure for the last 4 or 5 years.
He talked about it.
4 or 5 years. And just knowing, you don't have to say it. Like, he just knows. Like, he probably knew on Sunday. Like, as soon as he falls 3 strokes away from Wyndham Clark, he can feel a certain pressure that no one else there that was in that situation can, because of his past performance. And the guys that can flush that out,
yep,
in all sports, baseball included, football all the time. You know, they talk about the interceptions that are thrown from quarterbacks, and the guys that can throw 4 touchdowns after that are so different from the guys that throw 4 more interceptions. And those guys, especially on this tour, especially this weekend, that can flush out going in the drink on 17 and birdieing 18, those are the ones that are going to win tournaments, and those are the ones that are going to stay on tour for a while and not just be here for a couple of years and live out a little dream.
Well, I do think Ricky Fowler is very refreshing in the sense that he's like, I still live a very glamorous and privileged life, And so he wants to win very badly, but no, he's not going to compare it to like the life of a soldier or a cop or fireman. Or somebody that's struggling financially. He's like, listen, those are people that are dealing with pressure every day. So I thought it was very refreshing. And like we get back to Joey Votto saying, listen, I didn't want to disrupt what they have going on. And I think for Ricky Fowler, he's like, listen, I'm just one of many guys that's grinding it out here. And we seem to kind of gravitate towards Ricky more because there's so much promise, but there's a lot of other guys that have fallen like out of the top 10 down to the 50 or 75th in the world, and we don't talk about them as often as Ricky Fowler. So I think that Ricky realizes that the pressure is on himself, but he doesn't feel this outward pressure to impress anybody to try to win every tournament.
I saw this video of Ricky Fowler watching Wyndham Clark get the U.S. Open trophy, and Wyndham starts walking towards him on the exit, and basically he's ushered out. He didn't try to walk towards Ricky. Ricky was just there. And Ricky says, "Man, that looks pretty nice." And then they fist bump, and they both said, "Great job, man. That was a lot of fun." And they both smile and go away. And Ricky, in defeat, in the form and fashion that we explained, he is so graceful, and that's awesome to see, man. That's made me more of a fan of Ricky Fowler in a loss than it would if he would have won that U.S. Open.
Yeah, and listen, I feel for the dude because there's a lot, whether it's Rory or Jordan Spieth and going years in between major wins. I mean, people don't realize winning a major is like winning a world championship or a Super Bowl. It's not that easy.
No, there's not many people that do it.
It's right, and it's like NASCAR. There's certain guys like Dale Earnhardt Jr., as good a driver as he was, like he had trouble winning those big races, but he still started like 500 races in his career. So I think it's all relative to the people that are in these sports, that they have to deal with the negativity. My issue is social media. Oh, yeah. It creeps way more into your life than when I played. People would talk crap about you on the radio or in the newspapers, so you didn't have that much coming at you. That you couldn't deal with it. I think New York, Boston, L.A., Chicago, those kind of places, you're dealing, with 20 reporters a day instead of like me, I had 4 or 5.
Right.
And even in smaller markets like maybe Minnesota, maybe there's 3 guys that are going to come in and write nasty articles about you. I could put up with that. But I think for these guys now, there's such a focus on you. Even TMZ Sports and talking about your family and talking about all this other stuff, it's nonsense. It has nothing to do with you as an athlete. But these guys have to face it all the time. The same thing in every sport, And if you make one misstep, like a Ja Morant or like this Jones kid from the Patriots, you make one misstep, man, it could change your trajectory of your entire career. So I think it's a lot more difficult in today's climate, I think, to be an athlete.
For sure.
And especially when you're just an individual like this or tennis.
Well, and it's a double-edged sword now. And just talking to all the female athletes that we know with a huge social media backing, with all the youngsters that we know, where it's not necessarily a choice for them to do that.
Oh, yeah.
They have to do it for the brands they represent.
Like Dejanay talked to us.
Yeah, Dejanay Carrington from the CT Sun.
She's like, it's not easy being big on social media.
She loves it and loves the people she talks to, but it becomes more of the job than actually what the job is supposed to be. So, so many of these youngsters, even high school kids now, are thinking about this with all the NIL money that's out there, that I have to get my social media numbers up if I want to be a professional athlete. Just saying that out, saying that aloud sounds bonkers, but it's so true now that these guys and gals are huge money makers on social media to the point where it can get you in the door. I would say if Davis Riley has a humongous social media presence, going to an exemption wouldn't be a problem. Like, he would be getting exemptions handed to him just because of his star status on social. But then, like you said, in marketing in college, this was the term. And I think about this with Penn State, with Joe Paterno. I think about this with just legends that have fallen from grace at the end. It takes so long to build a brand to what it is. It takes seconds to destroy it.
Absolutely.
And,
well said.
To walk that balance as a pro athlete in their 20s now, I don't want it. It's tough.
That's my advice to all the young athletes that I work with, and even my daughter, who's has aspirations of playing maybe high school or college tennis. I'm like, don't put things out there on social media unless you think in 5-10 years it's acceptable.
You can live with it.
Because you don't know what society's going to be like then. And now they dig up 10 years ago, 15 years ago, because it lives forever in the cloud. So I'm way more fearful for the next generation of athlete because, I mean, even those two girls that are coming out, I think it's Georgia or maybe even Florida that are the twin sisters that are beautiful.
Yeah.
People are complaining
Going to be in WWE?
Yeah, they're making too much NIL money. And that's probably one of the reasons why they left college, because they didn't want to hear that anymore. They're like, listen, we built this brand.
Correct.
You didn't build this brand. The kids at other schools have to build their own brand, and now you want to penalize us for being successful? That's where we are, that people are always trying to pull you down. You're trying to climb up, and they're trying to pull you down. And so it's very difficult it doesn't matter if you're male or female in today's climate. Someone's always trying to tear you down.
I don't know if everything lives forever on the internet anymore, Dibs. I've been trying to find footage of that golf cart going rogue last year and going into the pond of 17. I got a feeling the PGA, Travelers, Bassett and Company, maybe even Chris Berman got to the internet wizards and scrubbed it from all things World Wide Web. I've been trying to find it. I had some young kids training them in the morning, told them about it last year, couldn't find it anywhere. I do think that can happen, but you have to have a certain status. I don't think just you and me can get things scrubbed from the internet, but it can be done.
I'm still trying to scrub my Wikipedia page. Anyway, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll do first dibs question of the day, and then the president, El Presidente herself.
All right.
Jen Rosati will join us at 4:25. We'll talk everything CT Sun and the WNBA. It's the Rob Dibble Show with Ben Darnell, live from the Travelers Radio Deck, brought to you by Big Y. We'll be here till Sunday.